There are days when you wake up and the weight of life sits heavy on your shoulders. You feel tired before you even begin. You think to yourself, maybe tomorrow, maybe later, maybe when I feel better. But let me tell you something. If you wait until you feel like it, you'll wait a lifetime. Success does not belong to the one who always feels ready. It belongs to the one who learns to move forward, even when tired, even when drained, even when every part of them says, stop. You see, discipline is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. And discipline isn't built when life feels light and easy. Discipline is forged in the moments when you feel the drag of exhaustion, when you don't have the energy, when you don't have the mood, when you don't even have the motivation. Those are the moments that define you. Because if you can move when you don't want to move, you'll discover a strength that most people never find. Tiredness is real, no doubt. Your body needs rest, and rest has its place. But there's a dangerous tiredness that doesn't come from lack of sleep. It comes from lack of purpose. When you don't feel connected to your vision, your goals, your future, everything feels heavier. The work feels like a burden. But when your reason is strong enough, you can run on empty and still make progress. The why fuels the how. So the next time you feel tired, ask yourself, am I physically exhausted or am I disconnected from my purpose? One of those needs a nap. The other needs clarity. Now here's the truth. The human spirit is stronger than the human body. Your body might say, I'm done. But your spirit can whisper just a little more. And if you listen to that whisper, you'll discover reserves of energy you didn't know you had. Every champion, every leader, every person who built something extraordinary, at some point they chose to move when they felt tired. That's the price of greatness. If you give in every time you're tired, you'll only live half a life. Because life is not designed to wait for your convenience. Opportunity doesn't pause until you're well rested. It passes by those who hesitate, and it rewards those who keep moving. Even small steps taken when you don't feel like it can change the direction of your life. So force yourself to move. Even if it's slow, even if it's imperfect, even if you're dragging your feet. Because movement creates momentum, and momentum creates energy. Surprisingly, comes not from waiting, but from acting. The more you sit still, the heavier you feel. The more you push, the lighter you become. And one day you'll look back and thank yourself for not giving in to that tiredness. You'll realize that the moments you forced yourself forward were the moments that built your character. Tiredness will come and go, but the results of pushing through will stay with you forever. So remember this, success isn't about always feeling strong. It's about moving even when you feel weak. It's about showing up even when you feel tired. It's about proving to yourself that you can keep going when it would have been easier to quit. Because if you can master that, there's nothing in this life that can truly stop you. There comes a time when you feel that weight in your body, that heaviness in your mind, and everything inside you says, I don't have it in me today. You know the feeling. The alarm goes off, but you want to stay under the covers. The task is in front of you, but you think, maybe later. The dream is calling, but you answer with silence. And here is where the great divide begins, because ordinary people stop there, but extraordinary people keep moving. The truth is simple. If you only move when you feel like it, you will rarely move. But if you learn to move when you're tired, you will step into a league of your own. It's easy to act when you're excited. It's easy to push forward when you're full of energy, when you're motivated, when life feels light. But the real test, the real measure of character, comes when you don't feel like doing anything at all. That's where greatness is shaped. Not in the times of enthusiasm, but in the times of fatigue. And let me tell you something important. Fatigue is not always the enemy. Sometimes it's a sign you are in the fight, that you are pressing forward, that you are carrying weight most will never carry. But the mistake is believing that tiredness is the signal to stop. More often than not, tiredness is the signal to test your will. The body has limits, yes, but the spirit has far greater capacity than you imagine. You think you're done when you've only reached 40% of what you can endure. Champions know this. Leaders know this. Builders know this. The reason they keep rising while others fade is because they learn to keep moving when tired. They learn to extract energy from purpose. They understood that when the body says a stop, the heart can still say a little more. Let me tell you, most people miss opportunities because they surrender too early. They don't realize that success doesn't knock at the perfect hour. It doesn't show up when you're well rested, when the timing is convenient, when everything feels good. No, it comes disguised in long nights, early mornings, and countless moments where your body begs for rest, but your dream demands movement. If you quit every time you're tired, you will never know how close you were to the breakthrough. Now, there is a tiredness that comes from real physical strain, and yes, rest has its place. Rest restores, rest is wisdom. But there is another tiredness that is far more dangerous. It's not the body that is worn down, it's the spirit. It's when you've lost your sense of purpose, when you've allowed your vision to dim, when you've convinced yourself that comfort is better than progress. That kind of tiredness does not require a bed. It requires a decision to reconnect with your why. A decision to remind yourself why you started, why you dreamed, why you set out on the journey in the first place. Think of the people you admire most. The ones who built empires, the ones who changed lives, the ones who turned nothing into something. Do you think they were never tired? Of course they were. But they learned that the greater the mission, the more tired they would feel, and the more they had to force themselves to move anyway. They discovered something you must discover too. Energy often follows action, not the other way around. You don't wait for energy to act. You act to create energy. The hardest part is always the beginning. Dragging yourself up when everything inside says, oh, don't. Here's the secret. Once you start, once you push through the first few moments, momentum begins to carry you. So powerful. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. Discipline doesn't negotiate. Discipline says to do it anyway. And every time you obey discipline instead of your feelings, you become stronger, more resilient, more capable of creating the life you want. I'll tell you this, your feelings will betray you. They'll tell you that you're too tired, too stressed, too weak, too late, too unprepared. But your actions have the power to rewrite those feelings. That's why the successful don't rely on moods. They rely on habits. And those habits are built in the very moments when moving forward feels impossible. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine two people facing the same challenge. Both are tired. Both are drained. Both feel like quitting. One gives in. They say, I'll do it tomorrow. And tomorrow turns into next week, next month, next year. The other one said, I'll take one step anyway. Just one step. And that one step becomes two. That two becomes 10. That 10 becomes a mile. And soon, while one person remains stuck, the other has crossed a distance they never thought possible. All because they moved when tired. That is the difference a single decision can make. Your dreams do not wait for your convenience. The future you want will not reschedule itself to match your energy levels. Opportunities have a window, and that window will close whether you are ready or not. So you must learn to act regardless of how you feel. That's what separates those who wish from those who achieve. I want you to think back to a time in your life when you pushed through. Maybe it was a late night of studying when you thought your mind couldn't take another word, but you kept going, and you passed. Maybe it was a job, long hours, exhaustion, but you showed up every day, and it opened doors. Maybe it was a workout when your body screamed to stop, but you pushed one more rep, and you grew stronger. Those moments are proof that you have more inside you than you realize. And here's the beauty. Every time you force yourself to move when tired, you teach yourself a lesson. You prove to your own mind that you are not fragile, that you are not a prisoner of feelings, that you are not limited by exhaustion. You prove that you are capable of more, and that lesson carries into every area of life. It becomes a foundation for confidence. Because if you can conquer yourself, what else can truly stand in your way? Most people want an easier life. They say, I wish I had less struggle, less fatigue, less demand. But the secret is not wishing for less, it's becoming more. Becoming stronger, becoming tougher, becoming the kind of person who can walk through fatigue and still move forward. That's where the real satisfaction lies. Not in avoiding tiredness, but in mastering it. When you finish the day, when you finally rest, there's a deep difference between the rest that comes from avoiding work and the rest that comes after giving everything. One is shallow. The other is rich. One leaves you empty. The other fills you with pride. The sweetest rest is the rest that follows discipline. The rest you earn because you forced yourself to move when tired. So I challenge you. The next time you feel like quitting, don't. The next time you feel too tired, take a step anyway. The next time your body and mind say, not today, prove them wrong. Because if you learn this skill, this one skill of moving when tired, you will find yourself accomplishing more in months than most do in years. You will build resilience. You will build character. And you will build a life that others look at and say, how did they do it? The answer will be simple. You moved when tired. You acted when it was inconvenient. You forced yourself to show up when others stayed home. And over time, that made all the difference. The future is waiting. The opportunities are waiting. The life you dream of is waiting, but they won't wait forever. Don't let tiredness steal it from you. Push through. Move forward. Even when tired, especially when tired, take the step. Because that step taken in fatigue carries the power to change everything. Think about the farmer in the field. He wakes up before the sun when the air is cold, when the ground is hard, when his body would rather stay under the covers. But he knows the seed won't plant itself. He knows the harvest won't appear by wishing. So he forces himself to move day after day, tired or not. And months later, when the harvest comes in, the same people who watched him rise in the dark are amazed at the abundance he gathers. But it didn't come from comfort. It came from movement in the face of fatigue. Your life works the same way. Listen, your harvest, your results, your dreams, your achievements are waiting, but they only belong to the one who shows up tired and still does the work. Now, the mind has a strange trick. It tells you you're exhausted, but really you've got more to give. Haven't you noticed? You tell yourself you can't go on, but then a friend calls with an emergency, and suddenly you're up, moving, responding with energy you didn't think you had. Or you're at the gym and you feel like quitting, but then a song plays or the coach shouts, and somehow you squeeze out 3 more reps. What happened? The body didn't change instantly, your decision did. Your focus shifted, and when your focus shifts, your energy follows. That's the secret. Fatigue often isn't final. It's just a signal asking you, do you still want this badly enough? The ones who win big in life are the ones who answer yes. They prove that the dream matters more than the discomfort. And because of that, life rewards them with strength, with resilience, with breakthroughs. You've got to see fatigue not as the end, but as the beginning of growth. Muscles don't grow without strain. Character doesn't develop without pressure. Dreams don't come true without sacrifice. Tiredness is not the enemy. It's the evidence you're on the right track. But here's what happens to most people. They confuse comfort with happiness. They think, if I'm comfortable, I must be happy. Yet how many people do you know who are comfortable but restless? They've got the couch, the TV, the easy schedule, but inside they feel empty. Why? Because deep down the human spirit wasn't designed for endless ease. It was designed for challenge, for pursuit, for struggle, for growth. You may feel tired chasing your dream, but you'll feel even more tired living without it. The fatigue of discipline is far lighter than the fatigue of regret. I've met people who gave up because they were tired. They thought, I'll stop here, I'll settle, I'll rest forever. And years later, you could see it in their eyes. They weren't just tired in the body, they were tired in the soul. They gave up too early. Don't let that be you. Better to feel the sting of exhaustion from trying than the dull ache of regret from quitting. One fades with a night's sleep. The other stays with you for a lifetime. So when that voice comes, and when it says, you're too tired, I want you to answer back. I'll go one more step, just one. Then another, and then another. Because greatness is built one tired step at a time. You don't need to leap the mountain in one day. You just need to keep moving, even if you're crawling, even if your eyes are heavy, even if your legs are shaky. Movement is victory. Think of the runner in a marathon. Somewhere around mile 20, their body screams a stop. Their legs feel like lead, their lungs burn, their mind begs for relief. But those who finish are the ones who discover the second wind. The miracle of endurance is that if you push past the wall, new energy comes. And life works the same way. Push past your wall, and you'll discover your second wind in business, in learning, in building, in living. But you only find it by moving when tired. Let me tell you something else. People are watching you. Your family, your friends, your children, maybe even people you don't know. They're watching how you live. If they see you quit every time you're tired, you'll teach them weakness. But if they see you press on, even when drained, you'll teach them courage. You'll give them a model of resilience. And sometimes that alone is reason enough to keep moving, because your example might be the fuel someone else needs to find their own strength. And isn't it interesting? The moments you thought would break you often become the stories you tell with pride later. Nobody brags about the nights they slept easy. They talk about the nights they fought through. They don't recall the easy wins. They recall the battles where they wanted to quit but didn't. Those are the moments that define a life. And every time you move when tired, you are writing another one of those stories. So here's what I want for you. I want you to feel the satisfaction of earning your rest, not collapsing because you gave in, but laying down at night with a quiet pride that says, I moved anyway. I showed up. I kept going. That kind of rest is rare, but it is sweet. And it's available to you every day, if you choose it. And tomorrow when the alarm rings, when the body feels heavy, when the excuses start to whisper, remember this moment. Remember this truth. You are stronger than you think. You have more inside you than you know. You are capable of moving tired, of pushing through, of discovering your second wind, of building a life worth living. Don't rob yourself of that. Don't give fatigue more power than it deserves. Take the step. Do the work. Move forward. Tired or not, move. Because the future you want is waiting, and it will not wait forever. Think of the mountain climber. Nobody climbs a mountain because it's easy. They climb because it's there, because it challenges them, because it calls something deep inside. Now imagine them halfway up. The wind cold, the muscles aching, the lungs screaming for air. They're tired, so tired they wonder if they can go on. But the summit is not going to come down to meet them. The summit is waiting, and the only way to reach it is to take one more step, and then one more, and then one more. That is life. The peak you want, the success, the achievement, the fulfillment, it won't come down to your level. You must rise to it. And rising requires moving when tired. Think of the student burning the midnight oil. The exam is coming. The career is on the line. The books are thick, the words blur, the eyes are heavy. But they keep reading, keep writing, keep studying. And years later, nobody remembers the yawns or the fatigue. They remember the diploma. They remember the career that was launched. They remember the doors that opened. The tired nights were simply the price of admission. Think of the parent working 2 jobs. They come home drained, worn thin, but they still sit down to help with homework, still show up at the game, still put food on the table. They move tired because love is stronger than fatigue. And years later, those children will say, my mom, my dad, they never quit. That's the legacy of moving when tired. Fatigue will always be part of the human story. The question is not whether you'll get tired. The question is whether tiredness will stop you. If it does, you'll live a small life, safe but shallow. If it doesn't, you'll live a large life, demanding but rich. And the choice is made not once, but daily. Every morning when you rise, every evening when you're tempted to quit, you're answering the question, will I stop here or will I take one more step? I often think about the law of momentum. It's easier to keep a moving car rolling than it is to push a still one into motion. And your life works the same way. If you stop every time you're tired, you'll have to restart again and again. And that restart is always the hardest part. But if you keep moving, even slowly, you build momentum. And momentum is magic. Momentum carries you farther than effort alone. That's why it's so important to move even when tired, because stopping costs more than pushing. And here's something else to consider. People often confuse tiredness with finality. They say, I'm tired, so I must be done. But tired doesn't mean done. Tired just means human. Done means you've given everything you've got, that there's truly nothing left. And most of the time, you're not there yet. Most of the time, there's still more inside you. You just haven't demanded it yet. Tired is not the finish line. Tired is the doorway. And if you step through it, you'll discover strength you didn't know existed. Now imagine this 10 years from now. You look back at today. Will you be proud that you stopped because you were tired? Or will you be proud that you moved anyway? 10 years from now, the fatigue will be forgotten, but the results will remain. 10 years from now, the excuses will sound hollow, but the victories will shine. That's why you must choose carefully, because every moment of tiredness is a fork in the road. You either surrender to it or you rise above it, and whichever you choose shapes your destiny. And let me remind you, the world doesn't slow down because you're tired. The bills don't pause, the opportunities don't freeze in place. The competition doesn't take a nap. The clock keeps ticking, so you can't afford to let tiredness be your master. If you do, you'll always fall behind. But if you master it, if you keep moving while others rest, you'll find yourself ahead, far ahead, living the life they only dreamed about. So here's the great paradox. When you force yourself to move while tired, the fatigue often lessens. The body finds new energy. The mind clears. The heart beats stronger. But when you give in to tiredness, it grows heavier. You sit down to rest for a minute, and suddenly the whole day is gone. You close your eyes for a moment, and suddenly the opportunity has passed. Movement lightens the load. Stillness makes it heavier. So don't wait for perfect conditions. Don't wait to feel ready. Don't wait for energy to magically appear. Move first. Energy will follow. Courage will follow. Confidence will follow. And step by step, tired or not, you will build the life you've been dreaming of.